You've been doing duct design wrong, and so is almost every contractor I've met in the last 25 years. Not because they're bad at their job, because ACCA Manual D was written for a world that doesn't exist on every job site. Here's the thing, I've sat in rooms with some of the sharpest HVAC engineers in the country, and I've also crawled through attics where the ductwork looks like someone just threw it up there and hoped for the best. And you know what? The gap between what Manual D says you should do and what actually happens in the field, it's bigger than most people want to admit. I'm going to walk you through that gap today. What it is, why it exists, how it's costing you money in callbacks, and most importantly, what field adjustments actually work so you can close that gap on your next job. All right, let me set the stage here. ACCA Manual D is the industry standard for residential duct system design. It's the playbook. It gives you calcs for friction rates using available static and equivalent lengths, supply and return sizing, the whole 9 yards. And in theory, if you follow it perfectly, you get a duct system that delivers the right CFM to every room, every time. But here's what nobody talks about at the ACCA conferences. The average residential job site is a chaotic, unpredictable place. You've got builders who change floor plans mid-construction. You've got existing homes where the ductwork was installed by someone who clearly learned it from a YouTube video made in 2003, which I'm hoping wasn't one of mine. You've got chases that are 6 inches too narrow, attics that are already packed with insulation and wiring, and homeowners standing over your shoulder asking you why you're just measuring things instead of actually installing the new system. Manual D doesn't account for any of that, and that's not a knock on ACCA. Look, I'm an ACCA Epic Residential System Design instructor. I believe in this stuff. But I also believe in honesty, and the honest truth is that Manual D is a design tool, not a field installation manual. The second your pencil-perfect duct design hits a real house, it starts changing. So, what do? Let's start with the biggest disconnect I see out in the field, and that's friction rate. This Manual D worksheet uses available static pressure and total equivalent lengths, and from that, you calculate a design friction rate. That number, which is usually somewhere between 0.06 and 0.16 inches of water column per 100 feet, tells you how big your ducts need to be to move the right amount of air without overworking the blower. Sounds clean, right? Here's where it falls apart. The friction rate calculations assumes your total effective length is actually accurate, and total effective length is supposed to account for every fitting in your longest run. Every elbow, T, transition, converted into an equivalent length of straight duct based on how much resistance that fitting creates. In my experience, training contractors all over New England, most guys are guessing on these fittings. Or they're using the generic values of 20, 30, even 40% off from what actually is in the fitting tables. I've seen contractors use 10 feet for a sharp 90-degree elbow when the fitting they're actually installing is closer to 65 feet. It's not a small error. That's the difference between a system that works and a system that might be starving for air. Here's the first field adjustment. Stop guessing on fittings and start using fitting families. ACCA has fitting tables. They're the majority of the Manual D in the appendixes. They're in CoolCalc and they're in RightSoft. Pick the fittings you actually use, the elbows, the boots, the transitions that are in your van or on your truck right now. Look up their equivalent lengths, write them down, maybe even make a laminated card if you have to. When you're designing a system, use real fittings, not the generic pre-filled ones. This one change alone will make your friction rate calculations much more accurate. And more accurate friction rate means duct sizes that actually deliver the BTUs your Manual J says you need. Now, let's talk about available static pressure, because this is where I see a lot of contractors make the mistake that kills their system performance before they even start installing ductwork. Your available static pressure is the difference between what the blower can produce at design when you selected it based on Manual S, and what you're losing on things like coils and filters and that fancy media cabinet that a homeowner insisted on. Manual D says you get your blower's external static pressure rating from the equipment specs, then you subtract all your non-duct components. What's left is what you have available to push air through your duct system. Here's the problem. Manufacturers rate their blowers at specific external static pressures, but nobody tells contractors that a dirty filter or even a brand new high-MERV filter at full face velocity can eat up to 0.2 to 0.4 inches of water column all by itself. If you add a wet A coil, a UV lamp, dampers, and registers, suddenly your system could be running at almost no available static pressure. I've seen systems that were designed around a friction rate of 0.08 that were actually operating at an effective friction rate that made the air handler work so hard the ECM motor was pulling maximum watts just to get 60% of the design airflow. The homeowner's calling back saying they're hot in the bedroom addition. The contractor's doing crazy things like swapping out thermostats and nobody's checking the actual static pressure in the system. So here's your field adjustment number 2. When you're in an existing home, don't just calculate available static pressure, measure it. Get a digital manometer. Measure total static pressure at the air handler. Measure static pressure at the supply plenum and the return plenum, and you compare it to design. If your measured static pressure is way higher than your design allows for, you've got a restriction problem. It might be a dirty coil, might be undersized return ductwork, which is probably the single most underdiagnosed issue in residential HVAC. It might be a collapsed section of flex duct that you couldn't see from the attic access panel. But you'll never know unless you measure. And when you measure, you're not guessing, you're diagnosing. And contractors who diagnose get paid much more than contractors who guess. All right, speaking of return duct, let's go there, because this is where Manual D gets ignored more than anywhere else. Here's the reality. Contractors worry about sizing supply ducts all day long. Trunk mains, branch runs, boot sizes, a lot of guys are at least in the ballpark on the supply. But return ducts? Returns get whatever space is left. I can't tell you how many times I've walked into a house, has a 5-ton system and a single 20 by 20 return grill in the hallway. That's it. One grill for the entire house. A 5-ton system probably needs somewhere around 2,000 CFM of airflow. And a single 20 by 20 return with a standard filter grill at reasonable face velocity can handle maybe 800 to 900 CFM before you're pulling more static your system can handle. See, that already puts you at a deficit before a single BTU of cooling happens. Manual D helps you exactly size your return ducts. You calculate the return CFM, you size the return ducts the same way you would size supply ducts, based on friction rate, available static, and equivalent length. But in practice, contractors skip this step because returns, they're just not as visible. Homeowners don't ask about them, and builders often don't leave enough space for proper return chases. Field adjustment number 3 is design your returns like they matter, because they do. If you're going into an existing house and you can't add return ductwork, here's probably a possible workaround. Maybe undercutting doors, adding jump ducts, or T-Gerlin's air shares. Every closed bedroom door with a supply register and no return path is a pressure imbalance waiting to happen. That room pressurizes, conditioned air leaks out of every crack in the envelope, and you lose system efficiency. A properly sized jump duct, typically the equivalent of like 6 to 8 inch round for small bedrooms, gives that air a low pressure path back to the return plenum without having to tear open walls. It's not a perfect solution. Manual D would prefer you fully duct the returns, but it's a real world fix that actually works, and it costs less than one callback, right? Now let's talk about flex duct, because I know this is going to get some people riled up in the comments. Flex duct, it's not the enemy. I know there are guys online who act like flex duct is the worst thing to ever happen to residential HVAC. Look, it's not. Improperly installed flex duct is the problem. And Manual D has friction rate multipliers for flex duct. A properly installed, fully extended, well-supported flex duct run has a friction rate about 15 to 20% higher than the same size rigid duct. So it's usually the next size up. See, that's manageable. You can account for it in your design. But here's what happens in the field. Flex duct gets compressed. It gets kinked at 90-degree turns. It sags between supports. A flex duct that's compressed by even 20% of its diameter has a friction rate that can be 50% higher than design. A kinked flex? You might as well be trying to push air through a sock. I've actually cut open sections of flex duct during training sessions to show contractors what's happening inside. When you compress that flex duct, the inner liner folds in on itself and it creates a restriction that no amount of blower horsepower can overcome. So field adjustment number 4 is treat flex duct like it's your most expensive material. Support it every 4 feet minimum. Make sure you extend it fully, so no sags, no bunching. Use long radius sweeps instead of sharp 90s. When you have to make a turn, make it gradual, or better yet, use a hard 4 or 5 piece 90. And keep your flex runs as short as possible. If a branch run is longer than 8 feet, seriously consider using rigid duct for the main run and only using flex for the last couple feet to the boot. That combination gives you the best of both worlds, the efficiency of rigid with the vibration isolation and flexibility of flex duct at the connection point. All right, let's talk about one more field reality that Manual D doesn't fully address, and that's renovation and retrofit work. When you're going into an existing home, you're rarely starting from scratch. You've got ductwork that's been there for sometimes 20 or 30 years. You've got duct sizing that was based on a system that's now 2 generations old. You've got equipment that's been replaced once or twice, probably without anybody touching the duct system. So here's the scenario I see constantly. A homeowner has a gas furnace with maybe a 3-ton AC replaced. The original ductwork was designed for a system with a specific PSC blower curve and likely lower volume of air. The new system has a variable speed ECM motor. The contractor swaps out the equipment and doesn't touch the ducts and calls it done. That new variable speed system is now trying to operate in a duct system that was never designed for it. The ECM motor ramps up to compensate for the static pressure. Electricity consumption is going to go up, the homeowner's energy bills may go up, and the humidity control in the summer is terrible because the system's moving too much air too fast for the coil to dehumidify properly. So, field adjustment number 5, if you're replacing equipment, measure the existing duct system before you sign the contract. Take static pressure readings. Do an airflow measurement. Even if it's a rough one using velocity at supply registers with a large vane anemometer, or flow hood if you have one. Compare what the existing system is actually moving to what your manual J and S says you need. If there's a big gap, that's a conversation you need to have with the homeowner before installation, not after. Some of the best upsells I've ever seen come from contractors who showed homeowners exactly what their duct system was doing. Something like, your system is designed to move 1200 CFM, we're measuring 800. Here's why you're uncomfortable in that back bedroom. And here's what it would cost to fix it. It's not a hard sell. It's a diagnostic conversation that earns trust and earns money. So let me pull this all together. Manual D, it's not broken. It's actually a really powerful tool when you understand what it's doing and why. The problem is the gap between what it assumes and what you're actually dealing with on a job site. You bridge that gap 5 ways. First, stop guessing on fitting equivalent lengths. Use your actual fittings and look up their real values. Your friction rate calculations will be dramatically more accurate. Second, measure available static pressure in existing systems before you design anything. Don't just calculate it, go measure it. Your manometer is one of the most valuable tools in your bag. Third, design your returns like they matter. Properly sized returns are the foundation of a balanced system. Jump ducts and door undercuts are real-world solutions when full ducted returns aren't possible. Fourth, install flex duct like it's precision equipment. Support it, extend it fully, avoid sharp bends, and keep runs short. Fifth, in retrofit work, measure first. Know what the existing system is actually doing before you put in a new piece of equipment on it. That measurement is the difference between a callback and a repeat customer. Here's the bottom line. Manual D gives you the math. The field gives you the reality. Your job as a professional residential HVAC contractor is to bridge those two things. Contractors who can do that, who can take the engineering principles and apply them to the messy, imperfect world of a real house, those are the contractors who get the referrals, who don't eat callbacks, and who can charge what they're worth. That's the gap, and now you know how to close it. To get a complete framework for implementing this in your business and evaluating every weak link in your current process, watch the 15-point HVAC system design audit that shows you exactly where money's fallen through the cracks. Thanks for joining me this week at HVAC Pro Blog, where we provide advice for residential system design, quality installation, and system diagnosis. I'll see you soon.